Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of In the Ring with Acacia Courtney. I'm your host, Acacia Courtney, as it is episode number 30 of this little old podcast today, which is pretty exciting. I want to just say a big thank you once again to everybody that's listened. I've had a lot of people actually come up to me and say that they've been enjoying the show, that it's interesting content, and I can't tell you how much that means to me. Sometimes just scheduling and trying to find the link to what's happening in the sales world and the racing world can be a little bit daunting, and I really promise I put a lot of thought into it and try to make it relevant to what's going on as well, and a lot that goes into it, a lot of passion and really caring about the topic and about the world of racing as well. So I really appreciate all of that, all of the support, everybody that shares when I post the links all the time as well. And of course, a big thank you to the whole In the Money Media team for giving me this platform, allowing me to talk about a topic that I find so fascinating. So with that, we are in the midst of the Keeneland September yearling sale, also back racing at Belmont Park and at Churchill Downs. Some really big stakes action coming up this weekend as far as East Coast racing is concerned. I'm back personally, physically at beautiful Belmont Park, back commuting as well. So if you're commuting in the car, driving out to Belmont like I am daily, maybe listening to In the Ring, I hope, while you're driving, but looking forward to all of the exciting stakes action. So we'll talk about that a little bit on today's show. Some really fascinating guests, and I hope that you enjoy this afternoon, and happy to have you along for the ride on In the Ring. Very pleased to be joined now by my friend Saul Cumin, who has many winner's circle pictures and some very big races, and excited to get a chance to pick his brain a little bit now. Saul, thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited to have you on the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I'm psyched to be here.
So as I said, we've seen you in the winner's circle a lot of times here in races, in the Triple Crown with Justify, the Great Lady Eli, partnerships, and you've got some that you're now breeding as well. You're expanding in a lot of different ways. How important for you in this great game of racing has those partnerships been?
I mean, the partnerships have been a big part of our stable. I mean, we've owned very few horses really by ourselves. We've just felt like owning them with a group of friends has always been a little bit more fun, and we've always tried to sort of spread our risk. We rather own, whatever it is, a third of 150 horses rather than owning 50 by ourselves. It's just always been, the model that we've used for us, and it's worked pretty well.
You started off, I loved hearing the story when you did Cart Talk this summer in Saratoga with Jonathan Kinchin, starting off with Lady Eli, not even having silks, and to kick things off in the world of horse racing with a horse like that. Were you kind of bit immediately, or was it just, wow, you're on this incredible journey and you wanted to see where it was going to take you?
Yeah, I think at the beginning we really had, we just had no expectations. We did it sort of for fun, and really, didn't grow up with racing and didn't know anything. So I think what Lady Eli did was really open our eyes to the sport and to the highs, and obviously to the lows when she got sick. So you got a chance to see really every side of the good and happy days and the sad days too. And I think that whole experience is what really opened our eyes, and obviously since then we've gotten a little bit more serious about it, and spent significantly more time than we did at that point, and it's just become a big part of our lives, and it's been a lot of fun for us.
You talked about the highs and the lows, and there's so many of that, and about spreading the risk too. As far as being an owner, you have to be able to kind of ride that wave, so to speak. Tell me about some of the challenges with owning racehorses, because I mean, they will keep you humble, they will prove you wrong, and they will make you want to bang your head against the wall, but they'll also bring you some of the most incredible memories at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, you have to learn to just be patient. I mean, it is a emotional game. The highs are, they're as high as you can be. I mean, I think of some of my best memories over the last 5 or 6 years, and many of them are winning big races with partners and family and friends around. And I think as you win more big races, you start to really appreciate how hard it truly is to get there. The whole path of acquiring the horse and having to sort of climb the ladder and win the prep races to get to those big races, and you realize how things just all have to go right and have to go right at the right time to be able to sort of reach the top with, in some of these divisions with some of these horses. The hardest part, and the part that's always the most difficult to swallow, is just the injuries. You're at any point you could have 25, 33, 20% of your horses hurt, and you get used to those calls from the trainers. They're not easy. They're normally they normally happen to be the good horses. They normally happens when they're sitting on a big race that you have plans to go to with your kids and your wife and your partners. So it's tough. It doesn't get any easier. Sometimes you get frustrated, but just hoping that there are injuries that the horses can come back from. And we've always tried to just be patient, give them time. If you treat the horses well, they tend to treat you well back. And we're lucky that we have a big enough stable that normally when a few horses get hurt, we can kind of stomach it and be patient and do the right thing. So it's tough, but we had a year this past year where Monomoy Girl was went through a tough time and needed some time off, and Charlatan had a season-ending injury, and Aunt Pearl came back after winning the Breeders' Cup and had some issues. So we had three top quality horses all get hurt right around the same time. When you sort of thought about the year, those were horses we were really excited about. Yeah. So that's tough, but you just have to believe in the process and things come back around.
You talked about Monomoy Girl, and she's just, she created such a fan base too. She showed up every single time, and obviously some tough pills to swallow along the line. She missed an entire year at one point too, but then coming back and being successful like she was. What does she mean to you? And you really had some very special fillies and mares in your stable as well.
Yeah, we love buying the fillies. I think, our stable's always going to be about 60, 65% fillies. Our process has always been just to be in this for the long haul. And, they obviously retain their value in a nice way. And it's just a big part of our stable. I think because Lady Eli was so early for us and we got to, experience that, it kind of made us a little bit biased towards the fillies. Back to Monomoy Girl, just, one of the great horses that we've owned, right at the top of that list. I think what made her so special was, obviously you touched on it, her resilience to come back, but just her heart and her effort, and really how significant she was, just for the many people that she touched throughout her career, right? With obviously Brad Cox's first Grade 1 win. Think about where Brad is today. It feels like he's winning a Grade 1 every weekend. He's training for, many of the biggest owners in the sport. And, this was just 4 or 5 years ago where, this was his first, second, third, and I think fifth Grade 1 win or something like that. It was all the same horse. It really catapulted him. I think it showed many people how talented he was and is, and he's really come to be as, it's hard to argue he's not the best, or definitely one of the best trainers in the game, winning the Eclipse Award last year. So, that makes it special. When you go on those journeys with these great horses, with great partners, we had a blast campaigning her with great partners, and, Florent rode her in all of her races. And, he's obviously become a super close friend. And I think part of it was going through Monomoy Girl. And, there's always great stories behind great horses, and she's obviously one of them. And we're hoping she's going to come back soon. She's back in Brad Cox's barn and training, and so far, knock on wood, doing well. And, we're hoping we'll be able to run her a fefew more times before she's retired.
Awesome. I think it's so fun for the fans to get a chance to follow her as well, back this year in 2021. And I had Liz Crow on the show a couple months ago talking about what Monomoy Girl meant to her as far as buying her in a first big purchase. And you were able to team up with Liz and Brad and Aunt Pearl, who you mentioned, who was purchased over in Europe, and Tattersall's as well. Tell me a little bit about expanding to some of the European sales and immediate success that you had with that.
Yeah, the European horses, especially fillies, have been a big part of our program from the beginning, but they've all been buying proven horses, nothing unproven. So Aunt Pearl was was different for us. We bought a handful of horses at Tattersall. I think it was 5 or 6, and she was obviously the one from the group that did well. And she's a incredible filly. I mean, what she was able to do last year was really truly spectacular. She wasn't unfortunately able to kind of follow through and bring it back this year, but really a special horse, and Brad Cox did an unbelievable job with her.
When you go over and you buy something new, it's a European horse, a new venture, a young horse, like at the Tattersall's yearling sale, and then you get a Breeders' Cup winner, does it make you kind of want to expand more into Europe? You mentioned buying proven horses, but does it make you want to kind of go through that process again?
Yes and no. I think we're always trying to try new things and really honestly see what other people are doing.
Sure.
The Tattersall experience obviously for us worked out pretty well, just buying 5 horses and obviously ending up with one really good one. This year, I think we're going to go over and look to buy a few horses, but it'll be a pretty small part of our program. There's a bunch of other US owners that are doing it and doing it in a big way, and have had some success. Clarvage Stables and Peter Brandt and E5, and there's a handful of other people going over and doing that. And so we'll probably go in a different direction. I think we're trying to find things that are a little bit less crowded. So I don't think that'll actually end up being a huge focus for us. The proven horses in France, we've got 2 awesome agents, Nicholas de Watergan and Hubert Guy, that have been buying us horses privately in France for a long time. And both are terrific judges of talent, and great people and honest, and they've been great for us. So we definitely will continue doing a lot of business in France with both of those 2, and that'll continue to be a really big part of our program.
Well, you had another European horse that will be one of the favorites this weekend in the Jockey Club Derby, Soldier Rising, who ran second in the Saratoga Derby this summer after 4 races in Europe, and coming in from France too. That's got to be exciting, seeing a horse run well in the first U.S. start, and running in these big kind of races is always the goal, right?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, he's been fabulous since he got here, and Christoph has done a great job with him. He's really liked him from the beginning, which is great. And he doesn't always like them from the beginning. So I was gonna say, you're pretty familiar with that.
Yeah.
So he's trained great. He ran really well in his first race. I think the race actually turned out to be a little bit tougher this weekend than I was anticipating, with some more heroes that popped in there. I was thinking it was going to be a little more of a U.S. centric race, but listen, it is what it is. He's doing well. He's in a good spot. He's got a great jockey and a good post. So at this point, you've kind of done everything you can do, and you just hope that you get a little bit of racing luck. But we've been fortunate with him so far, and excited to see him run this weekend.
What's one of the biggest things with those proven horses? You kind of know what you're getting, right? What are some of the things that you look for? Is it kind of untapped potential with bringing some horses from Europe to the U.S., or just a running style that you think can transfer over? You mentioned the agents that you use. What are some of the things that they point out to you as some good value, a good buy to bring here to the U.S.?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's the biggest thing is firm ground. I mean, I think that the ground there generally is obviously softer, and there are some horses that really just need firm ground, and so we're always looking for that. I think trying to find certain pedigrees that we think are going to be able to handle the U.S. The training in the U.S., just most of it obviously being on dirt. There are certain European horses that Nicholas and Hubert think will be able to endure the training. I think some of the mistakes that happen bringing Euros to the U.S. is just they are lighter boned and can't handle the training on the dirt here, and so that's one thing that we obviously take into account when we're buying these horses. And then we're obviously looking for sometimes the stuff that's not as popular, meaning we've bought a bunch of geldings and older turf horses that run for bigger purses here, that once they kind of get through the 3-year-old sort of big time for them, the Arc, those type of races, and especially in France, they're easier to buy. You can buy them for less money, and people here tend to be focused on the fillies. So we have a horse, Tribuven, that won the United Nations this year. That was an inexpensive purchase. A few years ago we had a horse called Wake Forest. that won the Man of War. So we've been able to find some somewhat inexpensive horses that people really aren't looking at the same way because of where they are in their careers.
And buying those kind of proven horses, some of those older horses, especially with turf, it seems like they really take care of themselves. They can run longer. They are a little bit more durable, as you mentioned. And that's so fun. I think that those horses, I really enjoy getting to run those distance turf runners because they show up every time and they seem to stay sound longer as well.
Totally. And they can run, their stallion value is generally almost always zero. So you can run them for forever. I mean, as long as they enjoy their job and enjoy what they're doing, you can keep running them. And we've been fortunate to have a bunch of them that have kind of run at 6 and 7 and, even some of them older. And that's great because your fans kind of get to know the horses and, you're obviously, they become a big part of your stable for a long time. So it's great.
I wanted to ask you about a younger filly that you actually bred, Fluffy Socks, because I think it's such a cool story. I remember when she won at Pimlico, you were kind of telling me about it. Out of a mare that you owned that never won, by Slumber, who obviously you were part of as well. Tell me a little bit about how she came to be and how fun she's been carrying your silks and being as successful as she has been.
Oh, Fluffy Socks could be the top of the stable as far as popularity in our house today. It's actually kind of a funny story. We the first time we had ever gone to the races, I had my youngest son, who's definitely the most into racing, who just turned 10. I think at the time he must have been 4 or 5 years old. And we went to the races, and we were sort of, I think it was either the first time Lady Eli ran or the first time Tammy the Torpedo ran. And again, we knew very little about the sport. And we asked him to pick a horse in one of the races, and he picked a horse that was named Dinner Time. He said, I want Dinner Time to win. And so we watched the horse. The horse didn't end up winning. And then we won a race that day, and we went home. For some reason, he was still so young, he thought that we owned Dinner Time, and he kept talking about this horse. So finally we had to explain to him, no, we don't own Dinner Time. That was just a horse that was running that day. And he finally understood it. So when we had our second group of yearlings that next year, we let him pick the name of a horse, and he tried to name it Dinner Time, and we explained to him, no, that Dinner Time's already taken you. You can't name it Dinner Time. So he decided to name it Breakfast Time. We convinced him that was close enough. So that turned out to be Fluffy Sock's mom, and that was his first horse in his mind, as maybe a 6-year-old or a 5-year-old or whatever it was. And so Breakfast Time showed some promise early, and Chad was excited. He ran the horse, I think, as a maiden in the Miss Grillo, and turned out she got hurt and never kind of reached her potential. So instead of selling her, we ended up keeping her, and she was the first mom that we had ever kept, mostly because Sam just couldn't swallow the fact that we weren't going to own her because it was his first horse. And so obviously she wasn't worth a lot. So we had campaigned Slumber, and at the time he was at Calumet, and so we bred the horse to Slumber, and this turned out to be the offspring. And so he obviously named the horse Fluffy Socks, and it's obviously been a favorite for us in our house. I mean, it's to have a homebred go on and turn out to be a pretty good horse is obviously great. And it's funny, we obviously buy a lot of horses privately. We buy stuff at the sales. There are people that say that's not the natural way to do it, and that it's harder when you breed a horse, it is harder, it is clearly more special. I see all those things. It's unfortunately not the way we run our entire program, but it's been a lot of fun. And we visit the horse every day in Saratoga over the summer that we're there, and he ends up in Chad's back barn, so we can go at night, and before we go to bed, Sam goes by and brings her peppermint. So it's it's awesome. And he's made Fluffy Socks sweatshirts for him and his buddies, and it's she's really special in our house. And unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever be able to sell her either, so we'll end up having her babies at some point. So it's great. It's a good story, and it's super fun for our family, which is really what it's all about for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love hearing that he loves her so much too. And she's been good for him. Greatest stakes winner. So that's such a great story. But buying horses at the sale, as you said, obviously a big part of all of it. The Keeneland September yearling sale going on right now. You've been active in partnership quite a bit. Tell me a little bit. Give me a little rundown of what's going to be joining the stable so far after a few sessions down.
Yeah, we're excited. We're excited. I mean, this next couple of days,
Mhm.
hopefully we'll be able to do a little bit more damage. We've got a bunch of stuff that we're excited about. We've got a couple of groups that are buying horses. Obviously, the group that we've been buying with for the last couple of years. With SF obviously running the
Mhm.
group and Starlight, and we've got a few other partners in there. And that's the group that Donato buys, and the horses go to Bob Baffert. And we've ended up with some good ones, Authentic, Charlatan, et cetera, coming out of that group, and obviously Pinehurst that just won the Futurity last weekend with a promising group of 2-year-olds. So not a lot of change in that group, frankly. We're hoping to buy somewhere in the same number that we've had the last few years,
Mhm.
and I think we've bought 15 so far between Phasig and obviously the majority of them done at Keeneland over the last few days. And I think we'll buy more. I don't know if it'll be 10 more or 12 more or
Mhm.
15 more or 8 more. It'll sort of depend on the horses and the price and all that stuff. But that group's been really excited about what we've been able to do so far. And again, we don't know which ones will be good, but
Yeah.
we're hoping that we get a few good ones out of the group. And we have another group buying some colts that we're partnered with Bob LaPenta and E5 Racing, Bob Edwards. That's a new group for us, and Jonathan Thomas is the one buying the horses for us. And we again bought a few at Phasig, and we bought a bunch at Keeneland so far, and hope to be active here in the next handful of days and kind of round out that group, which will be exciting. We're buying some turf and some dirt and some proven stuff and some newer stallions, and we'll just kind of to give it a whirl. And then we're going to buy some fillies as well. Jonathan Thomas will buy us a few, and we've got Donato buying a handful of fillies with another group that is got Bob LaPenta with us again, and Eric Johnson. And that group hasn't been active yet, and expected to be more active kind of in book 3, 4, and 5. And
Nice.
so it's exciting. I mean, we've got a couple of great partners picked out, and we've got really, most importantly, good people picking the
Mhm.
horses. I mean, I think for me, I know what I know and know what I don't know, and the amount of value that I'm adding looking at a horse at a sale would be 0 to negative, um, and I know that. So Donato is he's incredibly talented. I mean, I think he won 3 grade ones in a weekend a few weeks
Wow.
ago with 3 different horses he bought at 3 completely different price ranges. So he's super talented, and he's doing a big chunk of the buying for us. And Jonathan Thomas, we think, is also extremely talented, and he's doing a bunch of it for us as well. So, I think with this stuff, you have to find people you trust.
Mhm.
You kind of let them know what you're looking for, and then you have to step away. And I get excited when I look at the sheet at the end of the day, the sales summaries, and see what we bought that day. But I definitely don't get in their way when they're buying during the day.
Does it kind of feel it's like Christmas? It's like the new toys arriving, all of the excitement, all of the future to look forward to when you kind of wrap up a sales day.
Totally. It's really exciting. I've been busy working and chasing my kids around, so I haven't been able to follow as closely attention as I normally am able to. Like over the weekend, I'll be able to watch a little more closely. So when I get home at night and hop in bed on my iPad and pull up all the results from the day, it's great to be able to look through all that stuff and see what you got. And then all the dreaming begins, right? You sort
Yeah.
of think about the next crop and start getting excited. And that's what the sport's all about. A lot of dreaming.
Well, I know you're a busy man, Saul. The phone's going off. You got a lot going on. I really
Sorry,
appreciate
I
it. It's all
apologize.
good. It's all
It's a
good.
busy house here. We got no school for the kids today, so it's we've got kids floating around all over the place, and every time the door opens, we get a little buzz. So I apologize for
No, you're totally fine. I
that.
really appreciate you taking the time. Good luck this weekend and good luck with the rest of the sale.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. Have a great rest of the day. Talk to you
Thanks.
soon.
I have a special guest with me now, Dan Pride, Chief Operating Officer of Godolphin USA. Dan, thank you so much for taking the time today. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you this morning.
It is a pleasure. Great to be with you.
Well, Dan, it's been such a big year for Godolphin here in the United States, worldwide, winning a classic with essential quality in the Belmont Stakes, top horses as we get closer and closer to the Breeders' Cup. What's kind of that feeling like? Obviously, for such a historic and storied operation as Godolphin, but to see that success on such a big level in 1 year like we have in 2021.
It's been awesome. I mean, the last 18 months have been weird for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but to see the success on the racetrack, basically exclusively with homebreds, which
Mm-hmm.
is kind of a little shift we've done in our program. recently to have more focus on homebreds. We've always had the homebreds along with sales horses, and this is sales season. Nothing wrong with sales horses, and we've had success with sales horses in the past. But with we approach this as a team sport with our group here, and we've got an awesome team. And so to kind of see the validation of what we put in place and everybody's contribution has been awesome.
With a horse like Essential Quality, I think he's the one that we've really followed a lot over the past years. He's done very little wrong with 2-year-old champion, then coming back and seeing Godolphin get the first classic victory with his Belmont Stakes win. What was that like? Especially, as you mentioned, he's a homebred as well.
He's a homebred, and it was, and I'll be honest, the Belmont was great. And like you said, it was a classic win. Now, selfishly, the Travers was actually a little sweeter not because the value of the race or the prestige of the race. We had a big group of our team at Saratoga. And so when we had our whole senior management team there, we had some other folks who were instrumental in our program there. That really added a whole other to it. Now, the Belmont was great, and being out, and we had, there was a few of us there, but it was not the same level of excitement as when you have, a broad group of your crew with you. That was really special.
Races like the Belmont, like the Travers, obviously huge and prestigious races that are special to win. And as we kind of look at what may be in the future for Essential Quality, moving on towards the Breeders' Cup, perhaps, with a horse like him who just shows up every single time. Obviously, for Godolphin, you've had tremendous horses over the years and such a strong breeding program. But seeing a horse succeed in those kind of 3-year-old top elite races like those, that has to be very special.
It is special. I mean, our racing program, it's a center point of what we do here. It's what Sheikh Mohammed is really passionate about and driven for. But also we have a stallion barn here, which is a big part of our operation. So these classic races, these colts, that's what drives our future in the stallion barn. And so they're really intertwined. And so to have the success we're having on the racetrack is going to help bolster what we're going to see in the stallion barn in future years.
Well, the year kicked off with another big win, the Dubai World Cup with Mystic Guide, who unfortunately I know has been sidelined, but what he did, and then Maxfield as well. Maxfield, I believe, pointing to the Woodward too, to have some older horses as well in that handicap division. Can you give me some updates on them?
Sure. Maxfield, he's in Saratoga still, and he worked this past weekend, and I think Brendan's going to go up and see him this coming weekend. And yeah, he's on track for the Woodward, and I think that it's a 1.125 miles. It's got unique configuration at Belmont for that race, but I think Brendan's really excited to see him at that 1.125 miles with that configuration there. The horse looks spectacular. I mean, he always, when he comes out to the paddock and on the track, it's a horse that you notice just because he is that imposing. And he's really thrived in Saratoga. Obviously we didn't have the Whitney go our way, but he got beat by a very good horse that Brad trains and Nick's go. And but we feel confident that his spot in the Woodward will be a good one to kind of springboard him forward to the Breeders' Cup. You mentioned Mystic Guide, another beautiful horse, thankfully. And he is, he's been out he had a minor procedure and he's back rehabbing, and we're hoping to get him cleared and ready to go by the end of this month to resume training. And we'll have kind of the final decisions about who's going to return as 2022 on the track and who may retire. So we have not made those final decisions, but we're luckily in a spot to have some choices.
Absolutely. Some big names as far as just the top 10 polls do go with those dirt horses in training. But you also mentioned about having the stallion aspect of your operation and seeing those bloodlines carry on. Maxfield out of a Bernardini mare who was a tremendous sire, but I think even just unbelievable broodmare sire who unfortunately we lost Bernardini this year. Can you tell me a little bit about how special it is to see that legacy carried on through a horse like Maxfield?
It is. It is very special. And Bernardini, he was kind of our original. I mean, he
Mm-hmm.
raced in the Darley Silks. He didn't run in Godolphin, as most people know, but he was a horse that had unbelievable presence.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if you ever saw him in the flesh, but
No, unfortunately not.
he had this eye that just grabbed him,
Yeah.
grabbed you. When he looked at you, it was like, boom, you were just captivated. And losing him, first of all, laminitis is brutal, and to
Mm-hmm.
watch a horse that majestic go through that is heartbreaking. And so it was very difficult for the team to have to see that and end that way. But bottom line is his legacy is unbelievably important to us. Again, being winning the Preakness, coming in the Stallion Barn, getting off to a very, very strong start. And like you said, I mean, for generations now, Bernardini mares are going to be in pedigrees that are going to be influential. And, he is he's already done things at his age and stage as a broodmare sire
Mm-hmm.
that no other horse has ever done. So, I think as more daughters are out there in the pipeline, that's going to continue. But losing him was just
Mm-hmm.
brutal. I mean, there's no way to put it, but it was a very difficult couple days around here.
I can't imagine. And he really, I think, left so many incredible memories on the racetrack, but in his legacy from the breeding shed as well, as you mentioned. But some other exciting new stallions to look at too. As far as the sales season does go, I've seen quite a few by a Stern. Can you tell me a little bit about him? Because I think
Yeah,
he's a really intriguing stallion.
I'm glad you brought him up.
Yeah.
It's a very unique play. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, we've got sister operations. We're based in Newmarket. That's kind of our HQ for the global operation. And then we have Ireland, we have Japan, we have Australia, and we have America. And
Mm-hmm.
so we have a great relationship with our Australian partners, the Godolphin team there, and Astern, being by Medaglia d'Oro, got on our radar as we call it a reverse shuttler, where his
Mm-hmm.
home base is Australia, and he came here, and we gave it a shot. Medaglia d'Oro has done unbelievably well and
Mm-hmm.
was very popular, and it was one of these plays that we said we're going to give it a chance. He was at a lower price point, Astern was, that gave people a chance. And I mean, he's really gotten off to a very good start with not a whole lot of opportunities. I mean, relative to some other stallions that have, big numbers, he does not have. And we purposefully, don't breed the massive books. And Astern, especially being a reverse shuttler, we even kept him a little tighter just because of he didn't want to put too much pressure on him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he doesn't have the size foal crop, but he has had some impressive first time out. He's got a couple stakes horses already. We had a horse win Saturday for Brendan Walsh at Kentucky Downs named Grail,
Yeah.
who is one of our, I mean, he came out of Florida, the pre-training, and was one of our more thought of colts. And so his win there was gratifying at Kentucky Downs. And, he's a big, long striding horse. He should get better with added ground. And no, I think we're excited about it. It's definitely something
Mm-hmm.
that we think has some potential.
I'm always intrigued by some of the new stallions, and like you said, with coming over from Australia. But it has to also be exciting here in the U.S. when you have some stallions that race in the Godolphin colors with a horse like Frosted, who's had a couple of crops now and has also gotten off to a tremendous start.
Yeah, Frosted, he's another picture. I mean, I call him the oil painting. I mean, he's matured
He is.
unbelievably well, and he's another one that grabs you. And it was dynamic on the racetrack. I mean, that Met
Mhm.
Mile on Belmont
Yeah.
Day, it's one that if anybody was there, they won't forget that one
Hmm.
because you just don't see performances like that. And he backed it up, later in the year and came in here and was very, very well supported. and his crops have gotten off to a very good start. You know, he's had several horses that look like they can break through. You know, when you get to the first crop 3-year-olds, to keep the momentum going, you know, you got to have the horses on Saturday afternoon running in the big races,
Mhm.
being competitive, and you know, he's given himself a chance, and so we're very optimistic about him.
I've heard he's a little bit feisty to be around.
He is
Is that
feisty.
true?
He's not, you know, there's, and you understand this from the backside. There's
Mhm.
mean, and we've had mean horses. Luckily, we
Yeah.
don't have any mean stallions, but we've had ones that, you know, you don't turn your back on. And he is not that. He's cheeky. I call him. He's cheeky. He just likes to play, and you know, he weighs 1,250 pounds, and
Mhm.
you know, he can play and make an impression. So you got to pay attention to where you are with him. But he's beautiful. He's in Australia, so he's actually. I'll just diverge.
Sure.
He's a shuttler to
Mhm.
Australia, and he has gotten off to an unbelievable start in Australia with his first crop just turned 3. And there's a chance, we don't know yet, but there's a chance that one of the Godolphin runners named Ingratiating, who's
Mm.
a frosted homebred for Australia, he may run in the Everest. We have
Oh,
a
wow.
slot in the Everest. Godolphin does there, and there's a chance that Ingratiating will take that spot. They have very high expectations for him this year. So the horse is he's actually standing for more now in Australia than
Wow.
he did here in America based on his first crop there. So that's encouraging.
Absolutely. Yeah, really exciting to see how that all pans out. And you mentioned the diversity as far as the different operations between Australia, the US, and Europe, but there's also some diversity as far as the trainers used and the different kind of program here in the United States as well. And you mentioned some of the pre-training in Florida and where a horse kind of gets its start. If you could walk me through the process a little bit, before a horse even gets to a trainer's barn, obviously you all are familiar with what you have on your hands.
Well, you think you do.
Fair,
You have
fair.
opinions. You have opinions. And so, I mean, so we're fortunate that you know here in Kentucky we basically have 3 divisions, and so the mayor's foal in one of these 3 divisions, and we have John Bell here in Fayette County.
Mhm.
Michael Banahan does a great job managing that, and he oversees the stallions as well. And he's our longest standing serving employee for Godolphin in
Mm.
America. Great guy. So John Bell, and then we have Gainsborough in Woodford County, um, and we have Danny Mulvihill there that oversees that group, and then Jerry Duffy is in Bourbon County at Stoner Side. So all these foals are going to be born and then raised on those divisions, and then they go to Florida. You know, we use Eddie Woods,
Mhm.
we use Niall Brennan, we use David Scanlon, we use Bridlewood with Meta Murphy there, who's
Mhm.
outstanding, and then we keep some back here that are later bloomers that we just start here in Kentucky with Jeff Mulcahy. So those all start their process, and by April, make a trip there, and Jimmy Bell's very involved in the racing, and he and I go to Florida, and we'll spend time with the pre-trainers, and we just basically try to put them in groups. It's very rough groups, but you know, A's,
Mm.
B's, and C's, and try to figure out later developing. This one needs to go early. This one looks turfy, and
Mhm.
you know, it's again, I wish it was a science, but it's more of a guessing art. Is try to allocate them to trainers on circuits where we think they can reach their potential. You get surprised, both the good and the bad, always when you're
Mhm.
dealing with these horses, and that's you know we allocate them to try to put them in the best spot, and we do move them around some, and we have a great relationship with the trainers that know that horses may move around if it doesn't fit where they are, and that so far has seemed to work.
Just seeing the overall, we talked about some of the success and some of the history of the operation, started by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, who has done so much for the sport of horse racing as well. If you will, tell me a little bit just about him and some of the things that he's done through Darley, through Godolphin over the years.
Yeah, well, I think in the history of thoroughbred racing, I think
Hmm.
he would have to be at the top of the pyramid in terms
Hmm.
of passion, investment, broad-based impact globally. And it all starts with the horse with him. And, you know, fortunately, he was exposed to horses as a very young age, and he's a horseman first, and thoroughbreds became a part of his life when he was educated in England, and luckily he went to a horse race and found that to be his next frontier. But he's been very involved in endurance racing and supportive of that. So we've just been fortunate that he picked the thoroughbred, and then also had the foresight and the ambition for a global reach and to try to build something that really had an impact across the globe with the horse. But his impact on people has been
Mm-hmm.
equally impressive, and in a program that well is the Godolphin Flying Start program, which Miguel's a graduate of,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
has made now I think I'm a trustee of the program, so I'm very involved in it and very proud of it. And there's now 170 plus graduates around
It's
the
amazing.
globe that will have an impact for generations, really, in terms of what they're now involved in themselves and the organizations they're leading. So it's really a flywheel that is going to continue to create impact on the industry and people. And then you've got charitable giving is a big part of our corporate culture here, and we've got Katie LaMonica who heads that up, and we've got the Thoroughbred Industry Awards coming up next month in
Mm-hmm.
October, which is a global program. Each country where we operate has its version. It's called Stud and Stable in some other jurisdictions, but here it's Thoroughbred Industry Awards, Employee Awards, and it's very impactful. And that day, luckily, we're going to have an in-person ceremony again this year, but it is to see the impact it has on staff who get recognized by their peers or by their bosses or someone they know, and to see that play out on that lunch it's also a very, very impactful day.
Think for all of us that are involved in any facet of the thoroughbred industry, that passion really does come first. And for you, what does it mean to be a piece of this company, this organization, this global impact piece that is so important to the history of horse racing?
Well, my standard answer when somebody asks me how I'm doing, I say I am still spoiled. Um, we are very fortunate. I mean, I think and part of the culture we've tried to build here, and I think it's globally, but I focus here on America, is we try to take our job seriously, but not ourselves seriously,
Mhm.
because we know we are very fortunate, to work in this operation. Um, we've got great team members who are long serving, who really understand the blessings we have and the opportunities to try to represent His Highness in Dubai and do things the right way, and get to represent the organization, focus on the horse. We spend a lot of time on the horse. That's our core mission. And retraining is another thing I didn't talk about really with our
Mhm.
charitable efforts. And we got Emma Brown Lovett here, who works with me and Jimmy and is very involved in the retraining, and she is passionate about that. And we really spend a lot of time on just making sure at each stage, the horse is looked after the right way. And we're
Yeah.
fortunate, we know that. We're fortunate to be able to do it the right way, and we try to hold ourselves to that high standard. So I'm very, very lucky to be involved. And again, I mentioned the senior management team. We've got a group of us that kind of steer the ship, and we all have long-standing relationships. We got several Flying Start graduates who now have worked their way into senior management positions, and I jokingly say we have the added benefit of actually liking each other. Um, but we enjoy working each other. That when I talked about the Travers and we were all together up there, and it's not the same. And I think we know that it's not
Yeah.
this way everywhere, and so we're lucky to be able to take advantage of it during this time period.
Well, it is amazing. It's a seeing the Godolphin silks in the winter circle. I think if you're a racing fan, it never really does get old. And Dan, I really appreciate your time. Wishing all the best through the rest of the year, and looking forward to seeing those horses at the races again that we talked about today. And looking forward to seeing you at the racetrack sometime soon as well.
Well, I would love it. I have to throw one little thing in here. I thought of
Yeah.
this that now, and I know you don't want to get too personal, but now with you and Miguel,
Yes.
And we got Dan Blacker and Christina, and we got Tom Morley and Maggie. Those three guys are all Flying Start graduates. You three ladies are obviously all involved in the media business. So I don't know what there is, but I think there needs to be a podcast on what is the dynamic there that is causing these unions.
It's amazing. Actually, Christina Blacker texted me when Miguel and I got engaged. It's something in the water, I think, too. It's something in the water, but I'm in very good company.
You're in good company. Y'all each of y'all have your own style and approach, and you do an excellent job. I mean,
Thank you so much.
Really, y'all each have a great mark on the industry, and what you do is noted. So well done to you.
Thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate it. And like I said, it's a good advertisement for the Flying Start, which is an amazing program. And once again, really appreciate your time today.
All right. Take care, Acacia.
And that'll do it for another episode of In the Ring with Acacia Courtney. A big thank you, as always, to my guests this week, Dan Pride and Saul Kuhlman, both of those individuals with runners coming up this weekend. So wishing them the best of luck. And yeah, we're still very much in the midst of sales season. I think over the next few months, we're going to have a lot of excitement, a lot of action going on as far as the sales are concerned. So looking forward to talking about all of that that's coming up. And hope that you'll be tuning in on our show, America's Day at the Races, for some coverage of racing this weekend and all of those good stakes. And if you're following along from home as far as the sales are concerned too, I always recommend go to the sales website. You can oftentimes watch the live stream of the sale that's going on. You can check out the pedigree pages. You can really learn a lot. And then you get a chance to follow those horses once they head to the racetrack too, which is something I really enjoy. Especially Saratoga. If you're out at Del Mar, you see those 2-year-olds, those really stacked maiden races, and you start to look through pedigrees. And I love going back if they sold at public auction to the sale, if it was a 2-year-old sale, especially if it was a yearling sale, to be able to dive into those pedigrees a little bit more. And there's lots of great options, lots of great information on the different sales websites. So certainly take advantage of that. And I'll have a lot more exciting action coming up for you on next week's episode of In the Ring as well. As always, please feel free to share, and please let me know if you have any interesting topics that you think you'd like to see covered on In the Ring Pedigree and Breeding Sales podcast. We cover all of the things here on In the Ring. And as always, check out all of the content on In the Money Media. Till next time, I am Acacia Courtney. Thanks for listening to In the Ring.